Serious? What's the scariest fact you know? There's a plant that grows in Australia called a gympie. Touching the plant will result in an unbearable pain because of the small needles on the plant. The pain is so unbearable people and animals killed themselves because of it. There's also a plant called hogweed that can cause severe burns and blisters that can scar you for life. Gympie. I just wikied it. Apparently its fruit is edible. If the hairs are removed, that seems like it's pushing the definition of edible to me. A brain aneurysm can hit you anytime, anywhere, with next to no warning. Source: watching my otherwise healthy grandma go from happily singing and making dinner to crying about the worst pain she had ever been in to being a vegetable in less than an hour. My co-worker got a major migraine and started feeling very dizzy while at work. I helped her get a cab to go home, where her husband was, and she ended up going to the hospital that night for an emergency surgery. She was lucky to make it. Spent a month recovering at the hospital. Prion diseases exist. They're not bacteria or viruses. There isn't an infection per se to attack. They're basically an alternate form of protein, and we can't stop them. Prions are misfolded proteins, which makes them the origami of diseases. You can have rabies for years before it even shows symptoms. Then one day you get a headache and it's a death sentence from there. Oh god. I found a dead bat in my apartment like 2 years ago. Guess I should go get checked before the paranoia sets in. A moose can swim about 16 feet / 5 meters underwater, which is why orcas are natural predators of them. Imagine you're diving underwater. Suddenly there's a moose sitting at the bottom eating seagrass. Then it gets eaten by an orca. That would be terrifying. My day would be done at that point. That's it for me. Thanks. Your skin is not 100% attached to your body. With enough air pressure beneath the skin, your body will become a balloon with a solid core and it will be excruciating before the embolism kills you. Balloon Boy, NC-17 edition. My best friend was dining with his mom, dad and brother. His brother was talking while eating and mid-sentence he just fell head down into his plate. A blood clot in his lung caused sudden death. He was a 28-year-old healthy athlete. That thought haunts me every day. My mother passed away a pulmonary embolism on the living room floor. Scariest thing ever. She complained she couldn't see and things went black. As soon as we put a cold washcloth on her head while waiting for EMS, she took her last breath. The death part doesn't haunt me, but knowing she spent her last moment of life in fear from not being able to see haunts me to this day. Fun fact. Being flayed, skinned alive, by a skilled torturer meant that you'd be likely to survive the ordeal. Believe it or not, dying of shock or blood loss wasn't guaranteed. Often people survived hours or days with no skin. In these cases what finished them off was hypothermia. Holy frick, I think I've heard enough. If you are ever in a heavily armored tank and get hit, and the fuel starts to burn, you will not die from the shell, but from the heat. So basically getting cooked to death. I'll remember this next time I'm in a heavily armored tank. That a large number of asteroids and comets that could potentially hit Earth directly have not even been discovered as of yet, and our ability to actually stop a large object traveling stupidly fast is much worse than depicted in films. The reason they don't hit Earth is cause Jupiter usually pulls them towards itself with its massive gravitational field. Rose West is, alongside her husband Fred, one of the most infamous serial killers in modern British history who killed several lodgers in her house. And if not for a single mistake, she would have gotten away with it. When they were finally caught, all evidence actually pointed to Fred being the sole culprit and she shifted the blame onto him. Either out of a fricked up sense of loyalty or despair for being betrayed, Fred committed suicide in custody, which seemed to end the idea of bringing him and his wife to trial, relegating any other investigations into figuring out what crimes Fred had committed. The police were still deeply convinced that either Rose knew more about the murders than she was letting on or she was a direct participant, but she was a tough egg to crack. The police tried every angle conceivable, but she always deflected the blame onto Fred and there was never a crack in her story. Too well rehearsed. She knew what to say, when to say it, and they couldn't trip her up. However, while investigating both her husband and her own backgrounds, they discovered that Fred had a daughter from his first wife, and the police confirmed that not only was this girl one of Rose's victims, Fred has an ironclad alibi for when she died because he was in prison. And when they confirmed that another victim found was the girl's mother, the police had a clear motive. Rose killed her stepdaughter and told people she was back to living with her mother, and had Fred kill his first wife to keep her quiet. Honestly, I think a scarier fact than even this is all the psychos and murderers who didn't make any mistakes and were never caught. A botfly can lay an egg in a fraction of a second. Literally swatting the fly can be enough for it to lay an egg which burrows into your flesh and feeds in there until it hatches and matures enough to fly away and start the cycle again. It can also happen to an eye. I know this because I'm an eye doctor and I have removed a botfly larva from the inside of an eyelid, tarsal conjunctival membrane. And yes, I have photos. I have posted about it in the past before. No frick that. We've come very close to nuclear war and had nuclear accidents many times. Also, we've lost a lot of nukes. Google broken arrows sometime. Broken arrow. Broken arrows will probably bring up the very good emo song by Avicii. Your tastabuds are actually cilia and are constantly being worn down by the movement of your tongue in your mouth. If you end up in a coma for long enough, your tongue becomes fuzzy. Maybe it's just me, but that adds to the very long list of reasons I never want to be in an extended coma. I'll put you in a coma for telling me that tongues can get fuzzy, you freaking frick. That you really do need 7-9 hours of sleep every day. Even at 6 hours, the lack of sleep decreases efficiency, productivity, and increases risk of developing dementia and Alzheimer's. Furthermore, it weakens the immune system and handicaps the body's ability to destroy cancer cells, which therefore increases risk of cancers of the breast, colon, ovaries and prostate. The scary part of it is that you can't get back all the sleep that you lose out on because sleep efficiency decreases. So trying to catch up on the weekends isn't really making up for what you lost throughout the week. Ironically, those who say I can sleep when I'm dead will end up dead quicker because of lack of sleep. And people like to make fun of me when I say I get 9 hours of sleep. Just how dangerous the world actually is. Basically anything can kill you. If you swim in a lake, there is a chance you'll get brain-eating bacteria. If a fly lands on your eye for a nanosecond, it's enough time for it to lay eggs in your eyes. Death is always lurking around the corner. Prions are the most terrifying thing on earth. A prion is a misfolded protein in your brain, and once it starts, all other proteins will replicate. It can happen at any time and it's unknown what causes it. A prion disease is fatal once the proteins begin misfolding. There's no way to reverse it. Well-known prion diseases are Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, the former mad cow disease, and Kuru-Lewy body dementia is a related disease, what Robin Williams had before his suicide. Another terrifying fact is that it is transmissible. If you consume the brain of someone with this disease or come into contact with an instrument with the disease, then you will contract it and eventually die. There's no way to destroy the protein, so medical equipment used in brain surgery has to be carefully disposed of. There is also a newly studied disease that scientists have seen in deer as chronic wasting disease. The deer basically become zombies and eventually die. There is not any evidence, yet, that this disease can be passed to humans from consuming the meat, some the brain, which you shouldn't eat anyway. But it's still under intense study since deer hunting is pretty much required in some areas since they are considered a nuisance species. Bonus fun fact, most cases of CJD occur spontaneously. You don't have to come into contact with something contaminated or inherit it from someone. One day, unknown to you, a little prion in your brain decides it's tired of being told what to do and folds. And just like that, it's curtains for you. No treatment, no cure, and prion diseases are not fun ways to go. A lot of people don't realize rabies is extremely fatal. It's one of the deadliest diseases to ever be seen on planet Earth, deadlier than any plague. Only a handful of people have ever survived rabies and treated. I believe the number is around 5, and most of them were completely crippled for the rest of their short lives. Even treatment isn't very effective. Don't ever get rabies. Geologist here. The Earth's magnetic poles, places your compass pointer, are moving at an alarming rate. While they switch, think north compass arrow will point south. Every 10,000 years or so, we are overdue for a switch. So like happy 2021 y'all. Also the super volcano under Yellowstone does technically have the firepower to wipe out much of life on planet Earth, but it's not overdue like many people try to claim it is. That's just fearmongering. Also there was a point in the past during the Ice Age, I think, where less than 2,000 humans were alive. If it would have been modern humans we would have to put ourselves on the endangered species list. Spiders can swim, fly and climb, almost everything. Also, if you break anything and not remove the cast, the skin will grow over it, and beneath the cast, your skin will attach itself to the cast and be eaten by mites. I was told that spiders don't get killed when sucked up by certain vacuum cleaners and they crawl back out. Freaked the heck out of me when I moved and sucked up loads of spiders. If the sun disappeared, it would take 8 minutes for the rays of the sun to reach the earth. Also, if space allowed sound to travel through it, we would hear the roars of the sun for 13 hours. Also, after 8 minutes the earth goes flying out of our solar system in whatever direction it was headed when the sun disappeared. The entire universe as we perceive it is in the past. The vast distances make light take millions of years to travel. There may be alien life out there right now, but we may never see it because humans go extinct before that light reaches us. True, we are seeing things as they were and not as how they are right now. Basically if you look at the stars in the sky it's like you seeing ghosts, images of stars that may actually not exist right now or have died. There's a haunted house called the Mikami Manor. People there can be subjected to hours of torture, abuse, and humiliation. You need to sign a 40-page waiver to be let in, and the only cost is a single can of dog food. In this waiver, it states that the owner will not let you out unless you are having a serious mental crisis, or are suffering from near fatal bodily harm. Panic attacks do not count, even severe ones. There is a $20,000 reward for those who finish, but nobody has ever completed it. The longest anyone has lasted was 6 hours, and it can be as long as 10 hours. If you really wanna see the footage, there are plenty of videos of the torture on YouTube. Just be wary, as these videos are highly disturbing. You've never seen your own face, just reflections and pictures. Also, everyone else has a more accurate perception of your appearance than you do. Somehow this one's oddly comforting. No one's really as bad looking as they think they are for this reason. There is plastic everywhere from the highest mountains to the deepest trench in the ocean. It's estimated that by 2050 there will be more plastic than fish in the ocean. And it is bad for us, likely causing fertility problems and reducing penis size. Reducing penis size. I shouldn't have chewed on my plastic toys when I was a kid. This may sound stupid, but I think one of the scariest facts I know is the fact that you can find so much sick and depraved crap on the internet with just a few clicks of a button. If I, or heck, anyone wanted to find some cartel beheadings or some crap, bam, easy, the internet is fricked up, man. There is a time where the last star is gonna burn out and the universe is just gonna be darkness. That kinda freaks me out. This idea gets even scarier when you consider that it's darkness filled, lot of empty space, with black holes. If you commit a murder in the United States, the chances that you will be arrested and convicted for it is less than 50%. It's actually much less than that if it's a random killing. Don't know if this counts as scary, but it sure is freaky. When you're eating a pineapple it is also eating you. They contain the enzyme bromelain which breaks down proteins, that is, your tongue. That's what that tingling sensation is. Everyone appears virtually normal. Weird people are weird, but the scariest thing is, if someone truly is warped mentally they will appear absolutely normal. Always wonder if someone I know is truly someone I know, or just a projection they're showing me so I can't see the real him/her. At any second the whole planet could be completely destroyed by X-ray bursts from quasars. So many other scary things have practical solutions for protecting the human race, but there is no defense humanity could conceivably develop against such a massive amount of energy. I subscribe to the Star Trek utopian techno future. Massive gamma or X-ray burst. Nothing can stop it. Goodbye planet Earth. If you have FFI, fatal familial insomnia, you will experience progressively worsening sleeplessness. Your inability to sleep eventually turns into total insomnia, at which point you'll die. People who have this rare genetic condition will all die. It's inevitable. Most people within a year of its onset. Scary to think about. Surfers' myelopathy is a non-traumatic injury most often seen in novice surfers, where they tweak their back while trying to get up on the board. They initially feel pain and weakness and then they become fully paraplegic. It doesn't even have to be surfing, yoga, Pilates, or even getting up from laying down. You just hyperextend your back a little weird one day and bam, you're in a wheelchair, completely paralyzed from the waist down. This is it. Out of all the replies, this one is the most terrifying. I really shouldn't have clicked on this thread. Now I'm concerned that everything in the comments, especially a brain aneurysm, will eventually happen to me. Every time you log into a website, post on Reddit, send a text message, make a call, even just turning on your phone, your name and information is logged in anywhere from 10 to 30 different servers worldwide. And it's not just your phone or computer. New cars have data tracking systems that log your information that can be pulled during service. And yes, you agreed to all of it just by owning a piece of equipment. You could have experienced incredible and unimaginable pain and anguish or similar horrible things at any time and for any period of time. But you've forgotten. Because you've forgotten. It's as if it never happened. But at a point in time a version of you was experiencing unbelievable pain. It's scary to think you could have forgotten many things that nobody knows happened. But when they did, you yourself did experience them. The worst part of that is that even if you don't remember it mentally, your body does physically. So you have reactions and responses that make no sense to you. Because you don't remember the thing you forgot. The Body Keeps Score by Bessel van der Kolk explains more about PTSD and how the body holds onto those traumas. There are so many places that humans aren't naturally meant to go, and we have to artificially adapt ourselves to it. Underwater, underground, in the atmosphere, in space, and at those places, we are the invading aliens. No matter how you live, you can still have an aneurysm. Certain things do increase and decrease likelihood, but it can definitely happen to anyone. Somewhere around 1 in 50 people each year. Having one can kill you in minutes, paralyze you for life, and all kinds of other horrifying neurological crap. A great fear of mine would be having one as I sleep, and just waking up paralyzed, left to die eventually by my inability to seek help. Sleep well, kids. I've understand the Earth's rotation for as long as I can remember, but watching a time lapse of the stars moving through the sky really put into perspective the planet we are on is literally rotating through space. It's also interesting to think that the Earth is rotating, whilst orbiting the Sun, which is orbiting the SMBH at the center of our galaxy, and our galaxy is moving too. If you really were granted immortality, I don't mean like a vampire that can be killed in a certain way, I mean true immortality, like you will never cease to exist, even after all the stars have burned out and the universe contracts and there is another big bang, you will still be conscious and aware, and as many times as this cycle repeats itself, this will never change. Your existence will never end, ever, for any reason. That thought is truly horrifying. You never know if you were the last straw for someone's life. TLDR source. Saw this from someone's story about how their toxic behavior pushed a random to suicide in a random pub match on some game. Don't ever rage at players, even toxic ones. Be civil always. You never know what the person on the other end is actually going through, and you get nothing out of your pee contest anyways. NASA was originally created to explore the bottom of the ocean. Ever since they got down there, they've been trying to figure out how to get us off this planet. Apparently, people used to give surgeries to babies without anesthesia cause they thought babies didn't feel pain. They stopped not long after a few incidents, I believe, however I never looked further into it. A thing called estate recovery exists. Say you've worked your whole life. You have a solid 401k, nice house, etc. Then you get sick, like we all will. You lose your job, and the insurance that comes with it. So the medical debt collectors take your life savings until you're below the $2k threshold needed to qualify for Medicaid, which happens insane fast, because every tiny thing seems to cost at least $10k. Once you die, everything left that you had spent your life working towards goes to the state, not your kids. You lost most of it to debt collectors, but now your children pay the ultimate price. They lose the home they grew up in, and everything else that you owned. It wasn't enough for them to deal with the loss of a parent. The system is rigged to keep poor people poor. If you want your kids to have a good chance at life, you better start giving to them now. And just hope that you don't get sick within 4 years, because that'll count as a transfer of assets and they'll rake it back. I worked in healthcare, and I have seen this happen in nursing homes, assisted living facilities more times than I wanted. It's part of why I quit the business. That true randomness might not be real, and everything in existence is predictable, varying only by the form of information that describes it. The bank can't get your money back if you knowingly gave it to someone who turned out to be a scammer. So many lonely old and disabled people fall for scams, and I wish anyone who scams them pain and suffering. Look out for the vulnerable people in your life and make sure they're educated on scams and fraud. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.